Let me tell you something that might just shift the whole direction of your life. You can have the dream, the vision, the plan, and the grind, but if you're dragging the wrong people along for the ride, you will never take off. Some people in your life are weights and some are wings. And if you don't learn the difference, you'll spend your life wondering why you're tired but going nowhere. See, the people you walk with will either help you fly or make sure you stay grounded. And it's time you choose which ones get to stay on your journey. Some people in your life feel familiar. You've known them for years. Maybe you grew up with them. Maybe they've been through some seasons with you. But let me tell you something that might just change your perspective forever. Familiarity doesn't equal assignment. Just because someone is in your life doesn't mean they're supposed to be. And until you learn how to discern the energy around you, until you learn who's a weight and who's a wing, you're going to stay grounded when you were born to fly. Now I'm not talking about arrogance. I'm talking about awareness. I'm talking about emotional clarity. Because if you don't recognize the weight some people bring, you'll confuse their presence with purpose. There are people who make you feel guilty for growing, people who mock your ideas, people who downplay your calling, people who celebrate your smallness because your greatness intimidates them. And the truth is, you've been given these people access to your energy, your peace, your dreams, all while they've been quietly stalling your progress. You ever notice how a plane has to release weight before takeoff? It's because even the most powerful engine can't ascend if it's overloaded. You might have the vision. You might have the talent. You might even have the discipline. But if your environment, the people you allow closest to you, is full of negative, draining, dream-killing energy, you'll burn out before you ever lift off. Let me make it plain. Some people come into your life and you feel light. You feel empowered. You feel seen. You walk away from a conversation with them and your soul is full. They challenge you to be better. They celebrate your wins, even if they're still waiting on theirs. They don't compete. They contribute. Those are wings. That's divine alignment. That's confirmation that you're walking with the right ones. But then there are others. Every time you share a new idea, they roll their eyes. Every time you try something different, they remind you of who you used to be. Every time you start rising, they pull you back into drama, gossip, and fear. These people don't want to see you grow. They want to keep you in the version of you that makes them comfortable. And that's a weight. You see, it takes courage to admit that some of the relationships you're holding onto are keeping you from your next level. It takes strength to say, I love you, but I can't stay here with you. Because not everyone has the capacity to fly with you. Some people are only comfortable on the ground, and they want to keep you there too. Sometimes it's not the storm that's stopping you. It's the people you keep inviting on your boat. You're patching holes that they keep poking. You're fighting for people who wouldn't even lift a finger for your healing. You're breaking your back trying to carry people who are perfectly fine watching you drown. Let me be real with you. Discernment is not rude. Boundaries are not cruel. Distance is not hate. It's wisdom. If you want to go higher, if you want to finally walk into that thing you've been dreaming about, you've got to look around and ask yourself, is this person pushing me closer to my purpose or pulling me back into my pain? Because here's the truth. You can't heal in the same environment that made you sick, and you can't rise when you're surrounded by people who are more invested in your past than your potential. Now, I'm not telling you to be heartless. I'm not saying you need to cut everyone off and isolate yourself, but I am telling you to protect your peace. I am telling you to look at the fruit in people's lives. I am telling you to stop assigning lifetime access to people who were only meant to be seasonal guides. Some folks were never meant to go where you're going, and it's not your job to drag them with you. If they can't match your energy, respect your calling, or celebrate your wins, baby, they're not wings, they're weights. And here's the thing about weights, they'll always try to convince you that you need them. They'll remind you of how long y'all been friends. They'll throw guilt in your face. They'll say you've changed. Of course you've changed. That's the whole point. Growth requires change. And not everybody wants to grow. Some folks just want to be around growth without doing the work themselves. So you've got a decision to make. Are you going to keep entertaining energy that keeps you average, or are you going to fly? Because wings don't wait, destiny doesn't beg, and purpose doesn't apologize. You deserve to be surrounded by people who speak life into you, people who water your dreams, not poison them, people who correct you with love, not shame, people who clap for you even when it's not their turn. If you've got wings in your life, hold them close, be grateful, pour back into them. But if you're carrying weights, you need to let go. Not because you don't care about them, but because you care too much about your future to keep delaying it. This is your time. This is your season. But you cannot soar with dead weight strapped to your spirit. Choose wisely. Because when you finally cut loose what's been holding you down, that's when the sky opens. And you don't just rise, you soar. Too much access to your life can destroy the very thing you're trying to build. Not everybody who wants a seat at your table deserves to eat. And the truth is, when you give the wrong people too much access, you're allowing them to speak into places they haven't earned the right to touch. They begin shaping your thoughts, your direction, your peace, and ultimately your decisions. That kind of unchecked influence can become toxic, especially when it starts making you second guess the very thing you used to be sure about. Let me break it down. Every time you open your heart, your plans, your dreams to someone who hasn't shown wisdom, loyalty, or spiritual maturity, you run the risk of them speaking doubt over your vision. It's like letting someone walk into a house you're still building and start knocking down walls because they don't like the layout. But guess what? It's not their house. It's not their vision. It's not their blueprint. And yet, if you've given them full access, they feel entitled to make changes. Access is power. And you've got to learn how to manage that power with precision. You can't be emotionally generous with people who are spiritually bankrupt. Some folks aren't equipped to handle the weight of your calling, and that's not their fault. It's your responsibility to recognize it. When someone shows you they can't hold water, stop handing them your dreams like they're made of steel. You ever notice how some people only want access to you when things are going good? When you're shining, when doors are opening, when blessings are flowing, that's when they show up. But where were they when you were in the valley? Where were they when you were grinding in silence, when the lights were off and you were crying behind closed doors? See, those people want to enjoy the spotlight of your success without respecting the shadow of your struggle. That's not support. That's convenience. Too much access without boundaries creates confusion. You'll find yourself asking, why don't they value me? But the truth is, people can't value what's always available, what's always accessible, what doesn't come with expectation. Think about this. When something is rare, people protect it. When something is common, people misuse it. If you keep putting yourself in the hands of people who don't understand your worth, don't be surprised when they treat you like you're disposable. And here's where it gets real. The more access you give to unqualified people, the more you silence your own inner voice. You'll start believing the lies. You'll start shrinking your vision. You'll start over-explaining your purpose. You'll start playing small to keep the peace with people who were never supposed to have a say in your journey in the first place. Too much access also leads to entitlement. When people start feeling entitled to your time, your energy, your space, without contributing anything of value, that's a red flag. That's a sign you've been too open, too available. And I get it, you're a giver. You love hard, you want to see everybody win. But here's the harsh truth. Some folks will take everything you give and still say it wasn't enough. Why? Because they were never there to pour into you. They were there to drain you. Let's go deeper. Sometimes the people we give the most access to are the ones who hurt us the most. Why? Because we handed them the keys to parts of our soul we hadn't even healed yet. We trusted them with information that was still raw. And instead of covering us, they exposed us. Instead of uplifting us, they used our vulnerability against us. That kind of betrayal hits hard. But it's also a lesson, a painful but necessary reminder that boundaries are not optional, they're essential. You need to ask yourself, who has access to me And why? What are they bringing into my life? Are they multiplying my peace or subtracting from it? Are they speaking life, or are they planting seeds of doubt? Are they cheering for me, or are they secretly competing with me? These questions aren't petty. They're protective. Because your dream, your calling, your purpose, they are sacred. They deserve to be guarded. Access should be earned, not demanded, not assumed earned. People should prove through consistency, character, and loyalty that they belong in your inner circle. And even then, there should be levels. Not everybody gets front row seats. Some folks need to stay in the balcony. Some don't need to be in the building at all. Now don't get this twisted. Limiting access doesn't mean you're bitter or unforgiving. It means you're focused. It means you've matured. It means you've learned the cost of misplaced trust and you refuse to pay that price again. It means you'd rather have a few solid people in your corner than a crowd of opportunists clapping for the version of you they can use. The truth is, your peace, your energy, your focus, those are your most valuable assets. And they can't be for everybody. You've got goals to reach, healing to complete, battles to fight, and dreams to birth. You don't have time to explain yourself to folks who've made a habit of misunderstanding you. You don't have energy to waste on people who drain your spirit and dim your light. You've got to preserve what matters. So here's the takeaway. Start treating your life like it's a gated community. Not because you're better than anyone, but because what you carry is too important to be exposed to chaos, gossip, or confusion. Build boundaries. Enforce check the fruit, not just the words. Give access based on alignment, not attachment. Because the people you allow close enough to speak into your life, they can either push you toward your destiny or pull you back into dysfunction. Choose wisely, because every moment you spend explaining yourself to the wrong people is a moment stolen from your future. It's not selfish to protect your space, it's stewardship. And if you want to walk in your purpose fully, unapologetically, and with clarity, you've got to start treating access to you like the privilege that it is. Not a right, a privilege. And when you finally tighten that circle, you'll notice something powerful. Peace becomes normal. Focus returns. Progress accelerates. Why? Because when access is limited, purpose expands. And that's when your dream finally has the room to breathe. Have you ever sat with someone and walked away feeling 10 times heavier than when you first sat down? Not because of what you ate, not because of what you did, but because of what they poured into your spirit, or rather what they pulled out of it. That's a sign, a real sign. When someone leaves you more exhausted than encouraged, when their presence becomes more of a task than a treasure, you're not dealing with a wing, you're carrying a weight. Let's stop right here and get this straight. Not every burden is your responsibility to bear. People will walk into your life with a smile on their face and drama in their back pocket. And if you're not careful, they'll unpack that mess in your living room, sit back like it's their house, and expect you to clean it up every single time. That's not friendship. That's not love. That's not loyalty. That's manipulation disguised as connection. Some folks don't come to lift you. They come to lean on you. And the problem with constantly carrying people who won't even stretch their own legs is, eventually, you'll break under the pressure. And when you do, they'll move on to the next strong one, while you're left picking up the pieces of your own broken spirit. Let's take it deeper. Emotional vampires are real. They don't come with fangs or cloaks, but you'll know them by the way they drain you. Every conversation turns into a complaint. Every phone call turns into a therapy session. And it's always about them, never you. Your wins get overlooked, your feelings get minimized, and your boundaries get bulldozed. And because you've got a good heart, you keep showing up, keep pouring in, keep playing strong. But being strong all the time for someone who refuses to grow will wear you out. See, a wing doesn't drain you, it develops you. A wing challenges you in love, supports you in truth, and lifts you when you forget how to fly. But a weight will use your strength as a crutch and call it loyalty. That's not healthy. That's toxic. And no matter how much you love them, you can't let people anchor your spirit and then wonder why you're sinking. There are some people you've been carrying out of guilt, out of history, or out of habit. But history doesn't justify dysfunction. Just because you've known them for years doesn't mean they've earned a lifelong pass to your peace. And guilt. Guilt is a prison we build ourselves, brick by brick, with memories and what ifs. If someone's presence is robbing you of joy, clarity, or purpose, you owe it to yourself to re-evaluate why they're still that close to your life. Now, I'm not saying abandon people during their low seasons. We all have valleys, we all face storms. But there's a difference between someone going through something and someone who is the storm every time they show up. People going through something want healing, but toxic weights, they want company. They're not trying to get better. They just want to keep you down there with them so they don't feel alone. And you can't fly if you're always sitting in the mud with someone who doesn't want to walk out of it. You see, the most dangerous people in your life aren't always the loud, messy ones. Sometimes it's the quiet ones who chip away at your confidence. The ones who never celebrate you genuinely. The ones who joke about your growth but can't handle your glow. The ones who always need you but disappear when you need them. They might not curse your name, but they curse your calling by being a consistent distraction, a source of stress, or a manipulator of your time and energy. You've got to start asking hard questions. Does this person bring peace into my life or confusion? Do I feel stronger or smaller after I talk to them? Do they push me toward purpose or pull me into problems? Are they committed to their growth, or do they expect me to do the growing for both of us? Because if someone consistently leaves you feeling worse than before, that's not a partnership. It's a spiritual imbalance. And that imbalance has a price: your mental health, your emotional clarity, your spiritual alignment. You cannot be everything to someone who won't even be something to themselves. And I know what you're thinking, but I love them. Yes, you can love people from a distance. You can pray for them without playing the rescuer. You can care for them without carrying them, because your soul is not a public dumpster for other people's unresolved issues. Your mind is not a punching bag for other people's tempers. Your heart is not a hospital where everybody gets admitted, but nobody ever gets discharged. You're not here to be drained. You're here to be developed. That means you've got to start identifying who in your life is a wing and who is a weight. A wing is someone who adds value to your life even when they're hurting. They know how to lean on you without draining you. They communicate. They reciprocate. They take accountability. A weight, they make everything about them. They assume, they take. They disappear when you need them most, then reappear when they need something. Life's too short to keep giving your energy to people who leave you empty. You've got dreams to chase, gifts to activate, and peace to protect. Don't let someone else's emotional instability become your daily struggle. You were not built to carry everybody. You were built to fly. And here's the hardest truth you'll ever face: letting go of a weight doesn't make you heartless. It makes you wise. You don't have to wait for people to understand your worth before you protect your peace. Some folks will never understand your value because they're too focused on what they can get from you. And as long as you're playing savior, they'll never grow. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to step back and let them face their own mirror. That's not cruelty, it's clarity. At the end of the day, the people around you should be air to your wings, not chains to your ankles. You'll never rise surrounded by those who are determined to keep you crawling. Cut the cords, loosen the ties. Not out of hate, but out of honor. For yourself, for your purpose, for your peace. Because this life, it's not a rehearsal, you only get one. And it's too precious to waste one more moment trying to carry what God never told you to lift. Think about an eagle for a moment. It doesn't just glide on its own strength. It catches the wind, uses the current, rises higher. Now imagine if the eagle tried to fly while tied down by a dozen ropes, ropes made of doubt, fear, negativity, and low expectations from the people it surrounds itself with. That eagle wouldn't soar. It wouldn't even leave the ground. Now here's the truth that too many people overlook: you're the eagle. And the people in your life, they're either the wind under your wings or the ropes holding you down. See, wings don't just carry you, they elevate you. The people who truly love and believe in you will never let you shrink to make them feel comfortable. They'll challenge your excuses, speak to your potential, and demand you rise higher even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. But here's the thing, growth is messy. Progress is painful. Transformation isn't always pretty. That's why not everyone wants to see you evolve, because your growth exposes their comfort. Your hunger reminds them of their complacency. Your willingness to climb calls out their fear of heights. And so what do wings do? They don't compete with you. They don't resent you. They propel you. They cheer for you when you're scared. They speak life into you when you're drained. And when you forget who you are, they remind you loudly, clearly, and unapologetically. Wings are the ones who call you at 2 a.m. not to gossip, but to pray. They're the ones who clap the loudest when you win and get the quietest when you're grieving, because they know how to be present in both seasons. They don't let you play small just to keep peace. They tell you you were made for more, even if it means you'll outgrow them one day. That's love with no ego attached, and you need people like that in your life, because life will test you. Life will throw storms your way, and when it does, you don't need people who panic. You need people who help you build the boat. You need people who look you dead in the eye and say, "You've been through worse. You're not giving up now." The danger is too many people settle for wait relationships because they're familiar. Comfort is the enemy of growth. If everyone in your circle is just clapping for your past, but not pushing you toward your future, you're surrounded by fans, not wings. And fans will stop clapping the moment the show doesn't entertain them anymore. Wings love you enough to be honest. They're not afraid to check you when you're slipping. They'll tell you when your attitude stinks, when your focus is off, and when your potential is being wasted. And the reason it stings a little, it's because they see something in you that you haven't seen in yourself yet. They're not judging you. They're trying to wake you up. We live in a world where people confuse agreement with support. Let me tell you something. Someone agreeing with all your flaws, feeding all your vices, and never correcting you when you're wrong, that's not a wing. That's a weight wearing a mask. Real support challenges your comfort zone. A wing will tell you, "I love you," but that mindset's got to go. A wing will say, "You're better than this. Let's fix it." A wing will grab your hand and say, "Come on, we're not quitting here." That's who you need. Not just encouragers, but elevators, people who see where you're going and won't let you stop halfway up the mountain. There's a saying, iron sharpens iron. Well, wings sharpen wings. Ask yourself who in your life challenges you to be sharper, who refuses to let you settle, who makes you nervous in a good way, because you know being around them means you can't stay stuck. That's a wing. But here's the flip side. Being around wings requires you to level up too. You can't be lazy and stay in the presence of wings. You can't cling to bitterness and expect wings to sit there quietly. Wings call you to heal, to grow, to forgive, to believe. And that can be scary, but it's necessary. Sometimes the very reason we push away the people trying to grow us is because we're not ready to let go of our comfort. But comfort will keep you average. Growth demands discomfort. It asks you to stretch, to break patterns, to dig deep, and to confront parts of yourself that weights helped you ignore. Wings will never let you stay small, not because they think you're broken, but because they believe in your greatness too much to watch you shrink. They remind you, you were born with purpose. You're not your past. There's more inside you than you're living out. And even when you forget, they'll keep speaking it until you believe it. That's what real love does. So today, do a heart check. Who in your life makes you think bigger? Who inspires you to move in purpose, to walk in integrity, to live fully? That's your Sir Tribe. That's your wings. And don't just thank them. Be one of them. Become the wing for someone else. Be the voice that reminds your friends of their power. Be the one who checks in, checks up, and checks hearts, not for drama, but for destiny. Because when we lift each other, we all rise. You weren't meant to live life weighed down by people who want to keep you beneath your calling. You were made to soar. And wings don't apologize for flying. They don't look back to appease weights. They don't stay grounded to make others comfortable. They rise. They push others to rise. And they never settle for less than the sky. That's the kind of people you need. That's the kind of person you need to be. There's a sacred season in everyone's life when you find yourself standing alone. The crowd disappears, the noise fades, the support you thought would always be there vanishes. You look around and suddenly realize that the people who once clapped for you are now silent, or worse, watching and waiting for you to fall. It's in that moment that most people panic. But you're not supposed to panic. You're supposed to prepare. Because sometimes you have to fly alone. See, flying alone doesn't mean you're forgotten. It doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't even mean you're unworthy of companionship. It just means you've outgrown the noise. You've matured past needing constant validation. And you've stepped into a level of calling that few can walk beside. That's not isolation. It's elevation. There comes a time when God will separate you so He can shape you. And the shaping hurts. The silence is loud. The loneliness feels like punishment. But what if I told you that quiet place is actually the workshop of greatness? What if I told you the season of solitude is where your strength is forged? See, when you're flying alone, you start hearing your own thoughts more clearly. You recognize the sound of your own voice. You stop being influenced by the distractions of others who want you to compromise. You stop waiting for permission to grow, to dream, to act. You move because it's right, not because it's popular. That's the power of solitude. It refines your focus. It forces you to become your own accountability. It teaches you to trust your instincts. And most importantly, it shows you who you really are when nobody is watching. That's where true confidence is born, not in applause, but in quiet consistency. But this solo flight isn't forever. No, it's preparation. See, there are people who are called to walk with you, but not until you've become the version of yourself that's ready to receive them. If the right wings showed up too early, they'd find a version of you still healing, still afraid, still seeking validation. And they'd pass you by, not because you weren't worthy, but because you weren't ready. So sometimes you have to fly alone so you can build the strength to fly with others who know where they're going to. Strong people attract strong people. Healed people attract healed people. Focused people attract focused people. But you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. That's why the solo season is so necessary. It molds you into who you're supposed to become. And let me say this, not everyone deserves access to you while you're becoming. Some folks are distractions dressed as friends. Some are leeches, some are anchors, and some are just background noise. If you allow those people into your sacred growth season, they'll delay your destiny. That's why the alone time is so important. It exposes every hidden weight. It shows you who's been helping you fly and who's just been hanging on. The dangerous thing is we confuse loyalty with wisdom. You can love somebody and still outgrow them. You can care about someone deeply, but realize they can't go with you into your next chapter. And letting go doesn't mean you're ungrateful. It means you're aware. You're aware that your purpose demands a different environment, different relationships, and different habits. It takes courage to fly alone. It takes strength to look around and say, I can't stay grounded just to make others comfortable. It takes maturity to walk away from good people who aren't growing with you. And it takes discipline to stay focused when you don't have a cheerleading squad behind you. But let me tell you what happens on the other side of that lonely climb. New wings show up. People with vision find you. People with integrity respect you. People who understand destiny walk with you. Not because you beg them to, but because you become magnetic to what you're aligned with. You see, when you're becoming the best version of yourself in private, the right people will find you in public. That's not luck. That's alignment. But here's the trap to avoid. Don't mistake temporary solitude for permanent rejection. Don't start believing the lie that you're alone because you're not good enough. No, you're alone because you're in a season of refinement. That's the difference. Isolation from the wrong people is protection for your purpose. Embrace it. And here's the beauty of flying solo. You build wings of your own. So when the right people come, you're not dependent on them to carry you. You're flying on your own, and their presence is a bonus, not a crutch. That's what healthy connection looks like. Two people flying beside each other, not one carrying the other. This is the hard truth. You can't skip this phase. If you rush into the wrong company just to avoid being alone, you'll stay grounded longer than you should. You'll delay your purpose. You'll lose clarity. You'll shrink to fit where you don't belong. So take this time seriously. If you're flying alone right now, build, plan, reflect, pray, grow. Get crystal clear about who you are and what you want. Use the silence to fine-tune your voice. Use the stillness to develop your strength. Use the solitude to build your wings. Because when the right wings arrive, people with purpose, character, wisdom, and alignment, you'll recognize them not by how they flatter you, but by how they challenge and compliment you. You'll know their wings because you'll feel lighter in their presence, not heavier. You'll feel seen, not used, supported, not drained. And when that moment comes, when you finally find your tribe, people who get it, who see you, who want to grow with you, you'll thank God for the season you had to fly alone, because now you know your worth. Now you know your path. Now you're ready for relationships that elevate instead of suffocate. So don't rush out of the solo season. It's not punishment, it's preparation. You're not lonely, you're being launched. Keep flying, keep believing, because one day you'll look back at this time in your life and realize that's where your wings were built. That's where your strength was born. And that's where everything changed. Let me leave you with this. Some people are weights and some are wings. And the moment you learn the difference, everything about your life begins to shift. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't even want to understand. You stop dimming your light to fit into rooms you've already outgrown. And you stop asking for permission to soar when you were built to fly. Your destiny is too great to be delayed by dead weight. You don't owe anyone your potential. You don't owe comfort to people who fear your growth. What you owe is obedience to the calling on your life. So if you've been walking alone, keep walking. If you've been flying solo, keep flying. Because in due time, the right wings will find you. And when they do, you'll realize it was worth every mile you flew alone. Keep becoming, keep rising, and never trade your wings for anyone's approval.